Hey everyone, I'm your host Grace Raven. Tonight's video is the Zachary Whitman murder case, which is a sensitive topic. Before I start, yes, this video is controversial, and I don't mean disrespect to anyone when I talk about this case, especially the victim Gregory Whitman. To me it does not add up, and that is what I will be discussing. You are free to your own beliefs and conclusions, and I welcome you to share them with me respectfully. On the 2nd of October 1998, Gregory Whitman was viciously murdered in his home at the young age of 13. He was stabbed over 100 times, resulting in him nearly being decapitated. His alleged murderer is his 15-year-old brother Zachary Whitman. As of February 8, 2018, Zachary Whitman has pleaded guilty to the murder of his brother after years of claiming innocence and has gave a new scenario of what happened, which I will get to later in this video. Let's go back to almost 20 years ago. The theory the police initially put forward doesn't make sense. It is known that Gregory arrived home from school at 3:10 p.m. on Friday the 2nd of October 1998. Gregory's friend Erin phones the house at 3:15 p.m. Zachary answers the phone, and Erin can tell it's the upstairs phone because of the sound it makes. She said Zachary did not sound out of breath and nothing seemed out of the ordinary when they spoke. Zachary called 911 at 3:17 p.m. after hearing what he thought was his brother wrestling with someone downstairs, but finding him dead. The police theory is that Zachary managed to stab his brother over 100 times, answer the phone call on the second floor, and hide the gloves and penknife outside before calling 911 at 3:17 p.m. There are a few issues with this. First of all, stabbing someone 100 times would leave you severely out of breath, so when Erin called at 3:15 p.m, Zachary should have sounded like he was. And if the stabbing took place afterwards, then he only had 2 minutes to carry it out before calling 911. There was no blood on the second floor where Zach answered the phone, and the door he supposedly exited to hide the evidence had no blood on it. He only had 7 minutes to carry this all out. It doesn't seem plausible. Moving on from the theory, there was no DNA evidence that Zachary murdered his brother. His DNA was not found on the knife or the gloves. They couldn't even prove the knife and the gloves belonged to him. Knife expert George Massis says that if the penknife was used for this crime, there would have been cuts on Zachary's hands, or if he used the gloves, then on the gloves, as there was no grip to the knife. It would slide down. Also, it should have snapped or at least bent in some way when it was used in the way it is thought to have been, as it wasn't a very strong knife. He also said it would take several minutes to stab someone in the neck that many times and as deep as it was, and said personally him being a larger man with training and more strength than Zachary, he wouldn't have physically been able to do it, and he doesn't think the knife was the main murder weapon. The case was not handled professionally. There were at least 25 people who came in and out of the crime scene with no protective clothing on. There were blood samples taken, but vacuums were not used to get fibre evidence, and bloody clothes were even left on the top of the washing machine and never tested. There was little canvassing of the area, and although a door was heard to be slammed shut by police, they didn't investigate it. They also didn't secure or check the basement for a potential perpetrator. On October 10, 1998, Zachary Whitman is charged with first-degree murder. In 2003, 4.5 years after Greg's murder, 20-year-old Zachary Whitman is tried for first-degree murder. His attorney presents no forensic experts at all on DNA, blood spatter, crime scene investigation or luminol testing. Zach is convicted based upon faulty forensic science and sentenced to life without parole. We then have the whys. If Zachary did kill his brother, then why did he call the police so fast? Why didn't he give himself more time to figure it all out? The quick call makes sense for an innocent family member who has found their relative dead, but does it make sense for someone who has just stabbed their brother over 100 times? We now have Zachary's confession, which still doesn't add up. He said Gregory was annoyed that he hung up on his girlfriend and wouldn't let it go. Zachary grabbed the gloves and penknife and went downstairs. Gregory followed him, yelling at him. Zachary only intended to scare his brother with the knife, but instead he stabbed him in the foyer. Gregory ran to the back of the house. Zachary followed and continued stabbing him in the laundry room. He said he got scared, hid the evidence and called the police. With this confession, it means that this all had to happen in the space of 2 minutes. 7 minutes already seem far-fetched, but now he somehow has had the time to stab his brother that many times with a flimsy penknife without cutting himself or the gloves, not getting his DNA on either item, hid the evidence and called the police. This is why I personally believe that Zachary Whitman has made a fake confession in the hope of some possible freedom in the near future, as he has now been charged with third-degree murder and is eligible for parole as early as February 2019 due to time served. Taking into consideration the build of Zachary, his possible strength, the time frame and the lack of evidence, even with a confession, it doesn't add up. I suggest you watch the knife expert video, which I've left in the description, so you can hear more reasons why it doesn't seem reasonable that the penknife was the main weapon or that Zachary was the killer. There are many cases where innocent people have admitted to crimes, and I feel that this is now one of those cases, and Zachary is just finding a way to potentially have somewhat of a life with his parents. We will all have our own opinions on this, but please express your opinions respectfully if you do comment. Thank you for listening, and if you would like to be kept updated on new videos, then please go over to my Facebook page, which I will also leave in the description. Thank you.